The white Leviathan's end. Albert grew up in the dim glow of oil lamps, his young ears filled with the rough laughter and wild tales of his father's old sailing friends. The Broken Mast Tavern, nestled deep in New Bedford's harbor district, was a haunt of old whalers, sea dogs whose hands bore the scars of battle against the deep. But one story reigned above all others, the tale of Moby Dick. "A demon, I tell you," one grizzled sailor muttered, his hand wrapped around a tankard of ale. "White as bone, eyes like twin hellfires. I seen him rip the Essex clean in half, like a child snapping a twig." The others nodded solemnly, their faces shadowed with memory. Albert's father, James, chuckled, though there was no mirth in it. "Ahab went mad chasing that monster, and look what it got him. No man has ever bested the beast." "But I will," Albert piped up. He was barely 12, his voice not yet broken by age. "One day, I'll kill Moby Dick." Silence fell upon the room, followed by an eruption of laughter. "That's rich, lad," one man cackled. "Best keep your feet on dry land." Albert's cheeks burned, but his resolve hardened. He swore that night that he would not be another drunken storyteller. He would be the man who ended the legend. Albert grew into a man of the sea. He apprenticed under his father on merchant vessels, learning the ways of the wind and the pull of the tides. But his heart longed for the chase, for the thrill of the hunt. At 17, he signed onto the Harbinger, a whaling ship bound for the cold Atlantic. He learned to wield the harpoon, to read the patterns of the waves, and to respect the beasts they hunted. Yet, no matter how many whales they brought down, none were white. Through the years, he sailed under different captains, each with their own superstitions. He met men who had lost friends to the great white whale, men who spoke of Moby Dick in hushed tones. But Albert was not deterred. He carved his path with skill and determination, rising through the ranks until he stood as first mate aboard the Endeavour, a whaler captained by the formidable Elias Graves. Then came the day that changed everything. It was on the far edges of the Pacific, beneath a sky bruised with storm clouds, that they sighted the impossible. "There she blows!" the lookout bellowed from the mast. "White whale! Off the starboard bow!" Albert's blood roared in his ears. After all these years, the beast had surfaced. Moby Dick, in all his terrible majesty, breached the waves like a ghost of the deep. His alabaster hide gleamed in the waning light, scars crisscrossing his titanic frame. His fluke, larger than the Endeavor's hull, smashed the water, sending a shockwave through the sea. Men scrambled, hands shaking as they prepared the harpoons. "Hold steady, men," Captain Graves barked. "This is no ordinary whale." Albert stood at the prow, harpoon in hand, his entire life funneling into this singular moment. The chase began. Moby Dick did not flee. He turned to fight. The sea boiled as the beast rammed the Endeavour, sending men flying. Timbers cracked and the ship groaned in agony. Harpoons flew, some finding their mark, but none deep enough to slow the monster. Albert climbed the rigging, taking aim with a specially crafted iron-tipped harpoon, his father's own design, long forgotten but never used. He took a breath and let it fly. The harpoon struck true, burying deep into Moby Dick's eye. The whale let out a keening bellow that shook the heavens. Enraged, he thrashed, his massive tail coming down upon the Endeavour, splintering its deck in two. Albert was thrown into the sea. Darkness swallowed him, the salt burning his lungs as he struggled against the pull of the deep. When he surfaced, wreckage surrounded him. The Endeavour was no more, and yet the fight was not over. Through the mist, he saw the white whale, wounded but not dead. Gritting his teeth, Albert clambered onto a piece of floating wreckage, grasping a harpoon salvaged from the waves. With the last of his strength, he hurled it into the beast's heart. Moby Dick gave one final, earth-shaking cry, then descended into the depths, his massive body vanishing into the abyss. Albert floated there, watching as the legend died. Weeks later, he was found by another whaling ship, barely alive. His tale spread like wildfire. Some called him a hero, others a fool. Some refused to believe that the white whale was truly gone. But Albert knew the truth. In the end, he had done what no man before him could. He had slain the monster that haunted his childhood. Moby Dick was no longer a legend. He was a memory. Albert's journey did not begin and end with Moby Dick alone. His life on the sea was a long and arduous one, filled with trials that shaped him into the man he became. From the time he first set foot on a whaling ship, he faced storms that threatened to send them to the ocean's depths, treacherous captains whose greed led to mutinies, and moments where he questioned his very existence. On one particular voyage, the Harbinger was caught in a maelstrom off the coast of Africa. The winds howled like banshees, the waves rising as tall as mountains. Albert, young and untested, clung to the ropes with bleeding hands as a lightning split the sky. The captain bellowed orders, but the sea did not care for commands. They lost 5 men that night, their bodies claimed by the abyss. These experiences hardened Albert, shaping him into the sailor who would one day stand before the white Leviathan. And the legend would not end with Moby Dick's death. As the years passed, rumors emerged of another great beast haunting the seas. Some whispered of a ghostly white whale seen off the Arctic waters, as if the spirit of Moby Dick refused to die. Albert, now an old man, wondered if the hunt was ever truly over.